Back to my channel. I'm going to be continuing my series that I started last month, I believe, which is where I'm going to be reviewing different textbooks to tell you what I think about them, whether I would use them for self-study or what I think they're good for if they're not good at all, because there are really a lot of shit textbooks out there, so I want to put them against my standards and let you know what I think. If my voice sounds a little bit weird today, it's because I have a cold, my sinuses and my throat is really swollen, so even for me, I sound really strange to myself, so just ignore it. This is actually a requested book, so I'm not sure if a lot of you have it. I didn't know about this book before one of you guys suggested it to me. I don't have the physical copy. I basically found a PDF online, so I'll link that down below if you want to check it out before you buy it. It looks like a pretty inexpensive book, so instead of buying something overseas, it might be something that could be easy for you to acquire, and if that's the case, then listen to this video. So the book is called Korean Grammar in Use, and the book that I looked at is book 1. And basically how the structure goes, in each chapter they lay out a few goals. They start with like one grammar, and then after that grammar they put example sentences, grammar explanation, and then some exercises, and it basically does each point in about 1 to 2 pages. Additionally, in this book they have like a whole section in the beginning about how Korean works. So they go through and they basically explain, without teaching you anything, just generally how the language works, so that you don't go in blindly and you have an idea of what you're trying to do. So for this video, I'm going to start off with the positives and the things that I liked about this textbook. So first of all, I liked that the grammar points are clearly separated, so they don't like mix different grammars together or put them in a big jumble or whatever. They're clearly separated, it's got its own page and its own examples, so that you're not like second guessing yourself or second guessing what's going on. It's very clear, so if you're self-studying, that's a really good thing. You always want to look for clarity, especially when it comes to grammar. The second thing I liked is good visuals. Now that might not sound very important to you, but it's actually very important that your brain feels comfortable and doesn't feel overwhelmed when studying a language. Visuals, especially when talking about like 𝕙𝕖𝕣𝕖, you know, like 𝕡𝕣𝕠𝕕, like those words that show direction. Also, the spacing was really good, which I also have a keen eye for. If it's all jumbled and the spacing is really tight and the wording, the lettering is very small, it's also, once again, not good for the brain when learning a language. The third thing I liked is the first section in that Korean grammar, what you call it, Korean language explanation. That first section was really good. I love the way that they explained it, and they explained it really simply and easily. So, you know, it made you feel like you were diving into something, like you knew what you were going up against, so I really liked that. So now we're going to talk about the negatives, so I also just took 3 negatives. My first negative is that the exercises are actually pretty distracting from the main point of what the chapter is trying to tell you. I always suggest that if you like doing exercises, you get a separate workbook or a separate exercise, you know, things, sheets, worksheets, whatever it is, separate away from your grammar. It's a lot better to keep your headspace in one place than it is to jumble it all together, which a lot of textbooks do. Right after they teach you the grammar, they have some exercises. And usually the reason why is because when you use them in classes, it can be really helpful because then you can use it with a teacher, you can use it with a class. But when you're using that to study by yourself, it tends to be like really distracting and can kind of confuse you further than necessary. The second is, although I praised how they explain Korean in the first couple of pages, they also put too much information for a beginner to understand, so it possibly can be very overwhelming, otherwise really confuse you since you have zero knowledge of Korean. Like, just reading that whole section might just throw you off, like, what am I getting myself into? What does this even mean? If I was creating this book, I would have left about half of that section at the front, and I would have put the rest of it at the end or at the start of the second book or something of that line, because it was a little bit too much information and would kind of throw you off for anyone starting Korean for the first time. The third thing I don't like is that they they start by teaching you the most highest formality form, like 입니다, 뭐뭐 했습니다, 난 that 니다 ending. And I don't think it's good to start there, especially because in Korean, the majority of the time you won't be using that ending. You'll be hearing it a lot, stuff like news and like at school, so it's not that you shouldn't learn it, but I feel like you should always learn the thing you're going to be using the most, the base, the middle, the strong ground where you can't go wrong, and then work your way around that. So if it was me, I would have taught you 𝕤𝕤𝕤 and 𝕤𝕤𝕤, and then after that maybe like have a grammar box that says it can also be used 입니다 and it can be used in the same form or something of that line. So those are my main points, but overall I do like this book as an introductory to Korean. It's not bad at all, especially because it keeps everything small and to the point, so it doesn't seem too cluttered. I'd probably give this book 3.5 stars. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you like, if you're learning any languages or you want to come to Korea, Japan, China, or you're visiting Asia, whatever the hell, and you like this kind of content, please subscribe down below. I'd love to see you guys around. And if you have any other textbooks or such that you want me to review, leave it down in the comment section down below and I'll definitely get to it. It might take me a little while, but I'll make sure for sure that I check it out for you. If you thought this video was helpful, then give me a thumbs up. And if you ever have any specific questions on Korean, Japanese, or Chinese, or Spanish, or whatever, or even just general language learning, then please hit me up on my Snapchat. That's where I like to interact with you guys the most. Or my Instagram. I've gotten lots of questions recently from Snapchat, and Instagram makes me really happy. If you want to connect with me, then make sure you go and follow me down below and I will follow you back. Bye guys!